What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to talk about NIO stock and break down some very important news that came out. I'm going to break down why NIO is down 7% for the day, despite the fact that we just had nothing but bullish data for NIO specifically, and also some other tickers. I'm also going to break down what's going on with tomorrow as we have more data coming out. Before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details and also talk about some other tickers, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000 into the account, you're guaranteed 15 free stocks, and this offer ends very soon. Anyways, let's talk about NIO, guys. Unfortunately, I was hoping that NIO would kind of gap up and go. We ended up gapping down and falling, and it ended up doing the opposite. And that's despite the fact that NIO did nothing wrong. There was no bad news from NIO. NIO's news, if anything, in my opinion, was very, very bullish. NIO did very, very well. Nothing bad was really announced from NIO specifically. There was just external pieces of news that came out that caused Chinese tickers to sell off. So I want to break down why that was and then some more details about that. But let me just remind you all, when it comes to deliveries, NIO had 18,000 deliveries for December, their third highest straight month in history for the history of this company. Not to mention the fact that they had a strong Q4. They beat expectations with over 50,000 deliveries. That was above the 47 to 49,000 delivery expectation. Any company, if it wasn't NIO, that this would have been really bullish news, and this was technically bullish news. Besides this news, there wasn't really anything wrong that NIO did in their power. NIO's fundamentals, the news that came out for them, have been in favor of the upside for the share price. Okay. And on top of this, I also want to call out Li Auto. So Li Auto also did very well, showing double-digit percentage growth. Li Auto had the top spot with 182% growth year over year. Very, very strong deliveries from Li Auto. They crushed it. Even XPeng did relatively well. The Chinese tickers killed it. Okay. Fundamentally, they did well. And yet, and you guys can probably see it right here, Li Auto's down 7%, NIO's down 7%, XPeng's down 4%. So do you guys see where I'm going with this, right? My claim yesterday that NIO did well and this news was bullish was not wrong. This was technically bullish news, but something else got in the way. And it's very unfortunate. This news came out a couple of days ago about how the US extended the tariff exclusions on many Chinese categories. And then there was more news that came out about just politics. We were looking at Chinese EV makers preparing for export pushes, but the problem was politics and more regulations would likely get in the way. And this led to a sell off because of the effects this would have on the companies. So I saw this news come out that was very negative. There's also more news from these articles saying that EVs are going to become a bigger political issue. So politics, regulations, and stuff like that got in the way. I don't want to break down too many details about politics. I really want to stay out of politics on this channel, to be honest with you guys. I just briefly showed you guys one thing, but let's just say that politics, geopolitical tensions got in the way over the weekend, and this caused Chinese companies to sell off. Okay, it's not that these companies are horrible; they have bad fundamentals. It's more like there is something else that got in the way that caused Li Auto to tank, XPeng to tank, NIO ended up tanking. We could even look for, like, I think even Alibaba saw some downside too. The whole market also saw some downside, but it was very possible for NIO to outperform. It's just that all this bad news got in the way because of politics and stuff, and this just slowed it down. So it's very unfortunate, guys. I'm sorry that this happened. I was really hoping that NIO would gap up and go because the news that came out from NIO was bullish, but it is what it is. We just have to continue and carry on despite this. So I want to break down what's my view of NIO now, how are things looking, and some other important factors over the next couple of minutes. But I first want to talk about something else. So looking at our economic calendar right over here, you guys can see that for tomorrow, we also have Barkin giving a speech. 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the ISM manufacturing PMI and the jobs numbers, the job openings, and the job quits. Watch for volatility at those times. At 10 o'clock a.m. is when we have the first round of data. And then we have the FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock p.m. So we'll be watching that as well. So watch for volatility at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 o'clock p.m. for the FOMC minutes. NIO, the price-price ratio is dropped. NIO is heavily underperforming. At least for today, it did. Wednesdays tend to be green 56% of the time, so we're going to be looking for a bounce tomorrow. Not to mention, the headlines, at least for NIO in particular, were not bad. NIO did very well with deliveries. It's just that, all this politics stuff got in the way. I don't want to go into too many details about it. Good volume on NIO, but we ended up seeing a bigger sell-off, and it is what it is. So what do I see for the share prices? I just want to mention this real quick. I think NIO is going to drop a little bit more than making attempts to bounce. I think that's on the 4-hour time frame. Our 200 EMA is going to be a key level at this 8.17 level. So watch that very carefully. Although NIO was looking bearish from a technical standpoint, I even called this out yesterday. Technicals looked like a little bearish for the short term, but I was hoping that the fundamentals and the news would trump that and NIO could gap up and go. Instead, it failed. It is what it is, guys. It's unfortunate. And it's just out of NIO's control. It wasn't NIO's fault. NIO did its part. It gave us bullish news, but politics had to get in the way, unfortunately. So what's my view of NIO? I'm very bullish still for 2024. I still think NIO is very undervalued, and this thing is going to reach at least $20 before this year ends. So I think there's going to be major upside for this year, but we have to be very patient again because of, at this point, it's just politics getting in the way again, but it's going to overcome that. The daily looks bearish. I could see it dropping a little bit more towards the 50 EMA at 8.19. Then I expect it to bounce very close to that EMA. So could NIO drop more? Yes. I anticipate some more downside. I think 8.17 to 8.19 is a possibility. The 200 EMA could be tested, but I think it's going to bounce after that and make its way back up. So a little drop and then bounce is very probable. We'll be watching that very, very carefully. On top of that, I just want to mention that even if NIO does see a little downside, it should hold with support right over here, and we're going to be watching to see buyers try to defend it. Now, it wasn't just NIO that sold off. Tesla also sold off despite having bullish-looking numbers. We were stuck between the 4-hour 20 EMA at 252 as resistance to 250, and support is going to be around 244 to basically 244 flat, which is where the 200 EMA happens to be. Tesla's kind of stuck going back and forth and back and forth. It might continue to remain in this range until we see a break in either direction. But look for an attempt to bounce tomorrow. It's going to likely try to test 250 to 252, reject, come back down, just continue to trade sideways. As far as SPY goes, it is also kind of stuck between the 50 and the 20 EMA. So it might backtest the 20, push a little bit higher tomorrow to make its way back down. But ultimately, I still anticipate some downside as SPY is looking weak on the 4-hour. Could push up just a little bit, forming a flag right here, push a little bit more, then eventually break down. I still think it's going to be hitting 468 soon. So look for a pop and then a drop. On Apple, still looking kind of weak. We are seeing some buyers trying to defend it, but overall, the trend is still looking bearish. It's going to likely rebound a little bit, backtest around 188, then end up rejecting and coming back down towards these lows. So I think a little pop and drop is coming to Apple. I think this is going to dictate the QQQ as well. It's going to be making its way up to 404, then a rejection, and I think it's going to be coming back down to 400. So a little pop and drop as well. Still looks bearish overall. It's been pumping very hard with almost no downside. So I think it's going to bounce tomorrow, and then we're going to see a little rejection and a little bit more downside as time goes on. I think Nvda is going to try to hold the 200 EMA and try to rebound towards 488, 485, then 488, and then reject and come back down for another kind of sideways day. And that's what I'm seeing for the market, at least thus far. The dollar is showing some life as the market's slowing down finally. We're going to be looking to see if the dollar can continue to push to 102.9 to break above the 200 EMA on the daily or on the 4-hour time frame. Might drop, back test 102, and then break out to 102.9. Drop and pop is very probable as the market may basically kind of like pop and then drop as well. So that's what I'm seeing, guys. NIO might drop a little bit more tomorrow. Backtest R200 EMA at 8.17, but then look for a very nice bounce right here. A little drop and a bounce and a push back up. Going to be looking for a bounce, so it might drop a little bit more. Backtest R200 EMA, then bounce back up and test R50. A drop and bounce is very probable. 8.17 and then a bounce back up to 8.6. That's what I'm hoping for on NIO. So it could drop a little bit more, guys. So just be very careful and watch our 200 EMA as support. I'm hoping NIO bounces there because once again, NIO did well, guys. Their deliveries were strong. Numbers were looking good. It wasn't NIO's fault that this ended up happening. NIO did its parts, did almost everything right. So please do not throw it under the bus or just solely blame NIO. Anyways, that's it for this video. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.